over the fantasy basketball season, and this season flying by this year. And right here, here's a few guards you should look to pick up on the waiver wire this week. The first guy is Kevin Porter Jr. of the Houston Rockets. And Porter Jr., he's exploded onto the scene now after he broke out in the G League after getting traded from the Cleveland Cavaliers early in the season. And this Rocket team now, they've lost 16 games in a row, and they're going to go with the young guys like Martin and Porter Jr. here. And Christian Wood should be back any day, but Kevin Porter, he got called up from the G League. And on the season, his stats with 17 points a game, 3.3 rebounds, 8.3 assists, 1.3 steals, 39% from the field, and 75% from the foul line. And the ranking is 399 for Porter. But the last week now, since he got called up from the G League, he's been putting up huge numbers. And he's a good ball player that he just didn't work out in Cleveland for whatever reason. And it seems like a lot of players over there don't work out for the Cleveland Cavaliers. So the 3 games since the All-Star break, he's really had some huge games. March 11th at Sacramento, 13 points, 5 rebounds, 10 assists, 3 steals, and a block. March 12th at the Utah Jazz, 27 points, 3 rebounds, 8 assists, a steal, 2 blocks, and a 3. And last night versus Boston, a little bit of a down game, but they lost by 27. 11 points, 2 rebounds, 7 assists, 2 3-pointers, and 25% from the field only. But Porter, he's getting the 30 to 35 minutes a game. Like I said, this Rocket team's rebuilding, and owners, they've already jumped to the waiver wire and added him in 7% of fantasy leagues over the last few days. But if he's still out there in your league, which is pretty slim that he might be now, only available in 29% of fantasy leagues, you go out there and get him. The second guard's Josh Richardson of the Dallas Mavericks. So Richardson, he's been a pretty good player this season for the Mavs, and it was a good trade for both teams, in my opinion, Philly and Dallas, with Seth Curry for Josh Richardson. On the season, Richardson, he's ranked 144 with 13.6 points a game, 3.2 rebounds, 2.8 assists, 1.7 threes a game, 92% from the foul line, and 44% from the field. But in the last few weeks here, he stepped his game up at 17.2 points a game, 3 rebounds, 3.8 assists, 1.4 steals, 2.2 threes a game, 89% from the foul line, and 48% from the field. So Josh Richardson, we know he's a good 3-point shooter, but this season he's doing a little bit of everything. He's good at the foul line, his percentages are pretty good from the field, and he's getting about a steal a game as well. So Richardson, he's playing major minutes the last few games since the All-Star break ended here for Dallas. And he's a mainstay, I believe, here for this Maverick team. And he's available in 45% of fantasy leagues. And the last 3 games for him, March 10th versus San Antonio, 12 points, 2 rebounds, 4 assists, a block, and 2 threes. March 11th at the Thunder, 27 points, 1 rebound, 6 assists, a steal, 2 blocks, 3 threes. And then 2 nights ago at Denver, 20 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, 4 3-pointers, and 54% from the field. So Richardson, he's doing a little bit of everything for fantasy owners. They obviously believe in him, playing him 32 to 35 minutes a game. And I believe he's going to keep this thing going. And he definitely should be picked up in all 10-team leagues or deeper. The next guard's Anthony Melton of the Memphis Grizzlies. So Melton, he signed a pretty good contract this offseason with the Memphis Grizzlies, and now he's healthy and he's playing at a pretty good rate. On the season, he's ranked 160th in fantasy basketball, 10.2 points a game, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 1.3 steals, 1.7 threes a game, 72% from the foul line, and 48% from the field. But the last few weeks now, he's ranked 37th in that time, with 11.8 points a game, 2.4 rebounds, 3.6 assists, 2.2 steals a game, 2.6 threes, 56% from the field. So Melton, he's helping owners in a lot of categories. His steals per game are at a great rate right now with 2.2. That's hard to find a guy getting that. And he's hitting 2.6 threes per game as well as Melton. So Melton, he's playing about 25 minutes a game here for Memphis. And he's had a good last 3 games out of the All-Star break. And he's available in a whopping 79% of fantasy leagues. March 10th versus Washington, 11 points, 2 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals. March 12th versus Denver, 9 points, 4 rebounds, 6 assists, a steal, a block, and 3 threes. And then versus the OKC Thunder last night, 13 points, 3 assists, 3 steals, and a 3. So Melton, he's doing all the little things. He's not hurting your percentages. He's shooting the ball at a good rate. And he's giving you 5 or 6 categories right now. And he's definitely worth an ad on the free agent and waiver wire at the guard position. The next guard's Hamidou Diallo of the Detroit Pistons. So Diallo, I have a video talking about him getting traded to Detroit and what it will do for his fantasy impact. But right now, he's not going to play for a few games with the strained groin. He's a free agent after the season here. But Diallo, he was a pretty good six-man, in my opinion, for this Thunder team. And we saw flashes of good scoring and good stat lines for fantasy owners and the Thunder. But I guess the Thunder think they couldn't re-sign him this offseason, so they traded him away for Mukiewicz and a second-round pick. And on the season, Diallo, he's ranked 226 in fantasy basketball, 12 points a game, 5.2 rebounds, 2.4 assists, a steal a game, 62% from the foul line, 48% from the field for Diallo. But we haven't seen Diallo in action since February 24th, so it's been a big layoff for him. And hopefully he comes back later on this week, either March 17th versus Toronto or March 29th at the Houston Rockets. But Diallo, he could get you scoring. He could get some rebounds. He's a pretty decent percentage as well, shooting from the field. And he can hit some threes as well. So I think Diallo, he can help fantasy owners. And the Pistons, it's a tryout run for him now. This Piston team, they're down in the dumps. They're rebuilding, and they're going to have a high draft pick. So all the young guys, they're going to play here for Detroit. We've seen it already with Blake Griffin getting bought out and going to Brooklyn. We've seen it with Bay playing big minutes. We've seen it with Sabian Lee and a couple other youngsters here. And Diallo, he's going to fit that group and that mold. And right now, he's available in 77% of fantasy weeks. I would go out there and get him in the 5th and final guard. I would look to add this week's Jalen Noel of the Minnesota Timberwolves. So Noel, he's come onto the scene out of nowhere now over the last few games here on the season. He's ranked 246th in fantasy basketball with 10.3 points a game, 2.2 rebounds, 1.3 assists, 1.5 threes a game, 84% from the foul line, and 45% from the field. But the last couple weeks, his ranking in fantasy basketball is 57th here with 16.5 points a game, 3.8 rebounds, 3 assists, 3.5 threes per game, 53% from the field. So Noel, he's scoring the basketball. His three-point rate is out of control, and he's giving you some rebounds and some assists as well. And he's available in a whopping 93% of fantasy leagues. So since the All-Star break, Noel, he's broken out here for this team. March 11th at New Orleans, 28 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, a steal, and a block. March 13th versus the Portland Trailblazers, 17 points, 5 rebounds and assist. And then last night versus Portland again, 14 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal, and 4 threes. So he's really hitting the 3-ball at a high rate right now with 13 made 3-pointers in his last 3 games for Noel. He's playing about 30 minutes a game. And right now, this is another team, Minnesota, like Detroit, where they're rebuilding, and all these young guys, they're going to get an opportunity to play and see what they have for next season on these teams. So Noel, you should go out there and add him in 12-team leagues or deeper, because he's going to help your fantasy team. And right now, he's helping in a lot of categories, and he's been a top 60 player in the last few weeks. So that's a few guards I would look to add on waivers here in Week 12 of the fantasy basketball season.